Yeah, I said I was gonna milk the 2026 NHL Entry Draft lottery results, and here we are. Because obviously, as a Vancouver Canucks fan, missing out on Mr. Gavin McKenna stings. And whether or not the Vancouver Canucks inevitably end up taking a Chase Reed or an Ivar Stenberg, one of whom will be available by the time they pick third overall, it is going to be endless amounts of conversations heading into the actual draft itself. But of course, all of this conversation is not going to make the hurt any less, because the Canucks did drop from first overall all the way to third. They had a 25.5% chance of getting first, but they slipped all the way to 3. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, with their 8.5% chance at getting number 1, ended up getting that pick. San Jose had a 5% chance of winning. Guess what? They ended up getting second. But with that said, I think the Vancouver Canucks dropping 2 spots to third is a great opportunity for us as hockey fans to remember that just because you lose the draft lottery doesn't mean you necessarily lose the draft. Here's a tweet from Marco D'Amico after the draft lottery saying this: "A notice for Canucks fans, remember, Colorado and Detroit both slid back 3 spots at the time and landed Cale Makar and Lucas Raymond at 4th overall. Sometimes it works out in your favor." Now, this is a great opportunity for us to remember what happened in 2017 and in 2020. In fact, you can debate that this scenario that we had seen out of Colorado and Detroit was worse than what we had seen out of Vancouver. Actually, statistically, it is. Because back in 2017 and in 2020, guess what? The draft lottery was a little bit different than how it is right now. Back in these days, there were 3 draft lotteries done for the first, second, and third overall picks. Plus, there was no rule that prevented a team from going up a maximum of 10 overall spots. This is why, back in 2017, the 2 worst teams in the league were Colorado and Vancouver. The Avalanche had an 18% chance at number 1, Vancouver had a 12.1% chance, and neither of them ended up winning. Instead, the first overall pick went to the New Jersey Devils, who inevitably took Nico Hischier. The second overall pick went to the Philadelphia Flyers, who had a 2.4% chance of getting that pick. And the third pick went to Dallas, which was at 6.4%. All of these teams, Colorado, Vancouver, Vegas, Arizona, they all had 10+% at drafting 1, 2, or 3. Nope, sorry, they all slipped down. Colorado went 4th, Vancouver was 5th, Vegas 6th, Arizona 7th, and then you have the rest there. In fact, you can say that it was even more brutal back in 2017 because the stakes were just a lot higher. Colorado in that 2017 season was absolutely terrible, and the fact that they went from a projected first overall down to 4 was seen as a total killer for Avalanche fans. They had already drafted Nathan MacKinnon a few years beforehand, Matt Duchene was getting older, the team was not doing all too well, and they ended up taking some dude out of the Alberta Junior Hockey League instead of taking somebody out of Sweden or the CHL. Cale Makar went 4th overall to Colorado that season, much to the dismay of many Avalanche fans. Some thought that it was a reach. He was ranked as low as number 7 by Future Considerations and McQueen's at the time. But this was just a guy taken out of Junior A hockey in Alberta, and I remember even Nathan MacKinnon, he had an interview where he said, yeah, who the hell's this dude? Like, why are we taking guys out of Alberta Junior A? Cale Makar now is the best defenseman in the world. And I'm going to confidently say that because Quinn Hughes is not a Canuck anymore. He had 79 points in 75 games this season, 92 points in 80 games last season, 90 points in 77 games the year before that. Cale Makar is the best player out of the 2017 NHL Entry Draft. And I feel like for a long time there was an argument that said that Elias Pettersson should have been that number one guy, but the fact that Petey has fallen off so bad, it allows Cale Makar and even Jason Robertson to overtake Petey in the retrospective 2017 draft rankings 10 years down the line. But that doesn't change the fact that Colorado fans back in 2017 were super pissed off that their team was missing out the opportunity to grab Nolan Patrick, whose career was unfortunately cut short due to injuries, and whose absolute peak we never got to see. Nico Hischier ended up actually going first to New Jersey. He was a pretty good player. I'd say he's a good player now. Maybe not a first overall caliber guy, but still solid. Miro Heiskanen also went third overall. So Colorado did have themselves 3 teams that could have taken Cale Makar above them, and they lucked out, getting the guy whom many will say is the best player out of this draft years down the line. In 2020, it was even weirder. Because yes, there was still a draft lottery done for 1, 2, and 3, but the problem was the draft lottery was done before the playoffs began in that 2020 season because of COVID. There was a big delay in the actual draft lottery, the draft itself, and the playoffs, which meant that the possibility of a play-in series loser team winning the first, second, or third overall picks, that was actually possible, and it was Team E that ended up getting the first overall pick with 2.5% odds over Detroit, who was worst in the league by far that season, with an 18.5% chance. Inevitably, there was a draft lottery done for which team would be Team E representative out of a 12.5% chance for all the play-in series losers. There was a brief moment in time where we thought, hey, Toronto could get first overall again, Florida could get first overall, so could Edmonton, and it ultimately went to the New York Rangers, who inevitably selected Alexis Lafreniere. Second overall went to Quinton Byfield in LA, third overall went to San Jose, aka Ottawa, and they ended up taking Timmy Stu. But the Detroit Red Wings were filled with misery after that 2020 draft lottery went down because they were so bad, and they ended up settling, quote-unquote, for a guy in Lucas Raymond that some folks thought actually could have gone a little bit higher. I mean, there were some rankings seeing him as a third overall guy. Other rankings had him a lot lower, though. Craig Button had Raymond at 9. But I guess you could say these days, Lucas Raymond is definitely one of the best players out of this draft. He is the best, if not second best. Only Tim Stützle, I'd say, has a real shot at being labeled as better than Lucas Raymond. And I'm only saying that subjectively based off of how these guys play, not necessarily because of the points. If you just go off of points, then yeah, Tim Stu is better, but there are a number of things that Tim Stützle has not been able to do in the playoffs, especially, that question whether or not he is that top guy. But still, Lucas Raymond went 4th overall to Detroit after the Red Wings slipped from 1 all the way to 4. The fact is, there are moments throughout history where the worst team ends up taking the best player. And for Vancouver, it's not as bad as it was in 2017 and 2020. You're not dropping 3 spots from 1 to 4, you're dropping 2 spots from 1 to 3. Could be worse, right? If a guy like Caleb Malhotra or Chase Reed ends up becoming better than Gavin McKenna, then hey, I guess it's a pretty good deal. And besides, there are enough people doubting Gavin McKenna's ability at the National Hockey League level anyway that makes this conversation worth having. It's not like people looked at Nico Hischier in 2017 and said, oh yeah, that guy Cale Makar out of Junior A, he's going to be better. But it just took a few years before we inevitably saw, oh, wait a minute, this guy's actually really, really damn good. He's been compared to Bobby Orr. I'd say that guy's probably better than Nico Hischier and Nolan Patrick. So with that said, are the Vancouver Canucks setting themselves up for a miracle here, or is it just bad luck masquerading itself, and I'm just trying to get as much copium out there so Canucks fans can stop feeling bad about the draft lottery? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Who will the Canucks draft and how are they going to do in the future? I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.